How would you describe Javier tonight? He's pitched a game like this before with a no-hitter, but just with just 2 pitches that they just had no clue. Seems like they couldn't catch up to.
Well, I don't know. He was electric, and he threw the ball up, down, and that shows you that the best pitch in baseball is still a well-located fastball. And he was calm and cool, and Christian Vasquez called a great game for him. And I think that's the first time I've seen 2 guys with the same first name as a battery. So maybe that was part of it.
We got Clinton right in the middle, Dusty, 3rd row.
Pretty emotional swing from last night to tonight. Yeah. What does that do for your squad, knowing you're going to get one more back home now?
Well, I mean, that's what we were coming here trying to, take it back home. I mean, you want to win them all, but, we realize how tough these guys, have been in this ballpark. And in reality, when you go on the road, if you can win 2 out of 3, then you've had a pretty good series. So it's a big series tomorrow before we head back home. We know that they have a great offensive club over there, and they got a lot of energy in this ballpark. And so it's a strange series. I mean, they hit 5 home runs yesterday, and then no hits today. I mean, this is a daily game and filled with daily emotions.
Greg, up front to your right, Dusty.
Yes.
Dusty, maybe just a little bit more on Javier, not just doing what he did, but the situation. You're down 2-1 in this series. A lot hinges on tonight. What kind of context does that add to his performance for you?
Well, to me, like I had heard an interview by Joe Torre that Game 4 is a pivotal game in a 7-game series, and that's why we kind of wanted Javi pitching that. That 4th game. And, the guy was cool as if it was June or July. And, that's how he is. And I was glad that I heard his mom and dad were here from Dominican. They got to see him pitch. And, it's always great when you do something in front of your folks. And, this is a world stage here. People from all over the world are watching this. And he certainly put himself on the map.
James, a little bit further back to your right.
Hey, Dusty, there's been 3 no-hitters in the postseason history. Back here. What's up?
Hey, Jay.
And you've been in the dugout for 2 of them. What do you think of that, and what do you remember of 2010 and Roy Halladay and being on the other end of that result?
Well, yeah, I was on the other end in this ballpark. I mean, that's what's strange about life. And I remember being on the other end of that. It was the 7th inning, and seemed like it was the 2nd inning. And I looked up on the board in the 7th inning already, and then you're trying not to be no hit, and then you're trying to win the ball game, and that's pretty remarkable. I've been on both ends and here for 2 out of 3.
Young lady about 6 rows back on your left.
Dusty, you guys threw the first combined no-hitter in World Series history. Can you talk about how Javier's performance helped fuel the offense tonight? Well,
yeah. I mean, Nola was dealing on the other side too, until we broke loose, with some consecutive hits, which have been eluding us. We've got a couple key RBI hits. It was a big one for you're down to get hit, to score our first run, because we hadn't scored in, 14 innings or something like that, 15 innings, whatever it was. So it was just good to, push that first run across the plate. But, combined no-hitters, that's hard to do, because usually somebody's going to give it up, during that no-hitter. And so, all our guys were poised and ready and strong, and that's one reason why I didn't use some of those guys in that game to try to salvage that game last night, because I wanted them to be fresh for today, and they'll be relatively fresh tomorrow.
We'll stay there with Anthony and then Bill.
You mentioned Vasquez earlier. What went into the decision to start him, and what do you think he brought to that effort behind the plate?
Well, he's caught Javi probably more than anybody on the staff. And, he got a chance to watch the first few games to see how to pitch or how to change in our pitching plans. I mean, he's a outstanding catcher. He calls a good game, and he's been in this arena before. With the Red Sox. So, the decision went in because I got to play him at some point in time, and usually Maldi catches, Verlander, Framber, and McCullers, and he was doing that, before we got Vasquez. So that's what went in my decision.
Bill, near the back.
Dusty, you mentioned how important this game was. Obviously, you got a guy throwing a no-hitter. How do you determine when the time is to pull him? I don't know that anybody expects, 130 pitches, but obviously he's still pitching pretty well when you took him out.
Well, yeah, he was. But, it was a situation where, he was approaching that 100 mark. Before every game we have kind of a, unwritten limit on where a guy should be in the ball game. His limit was 100 pitches, and I think he was at 93, and if we'd send him back out there the next inning, he'd have surpassed that maybe in the first hitter. So you don't want to bring a guy out of the bullpen in that situation with a guy on base. I wanted a fresh arm, and our guys have been rested. Our guys hadn't pitched in a couple of days. Our back in the bullpen guys. So it's always tough to take a guy out, but you have to weigh the no-hitter in history versus trying to win this game and get back to 2-2 in the World Series.
Did he have that limit knowing you might need him again? Would it have been different if you knew you'd not?
No. I think we took him to 115 pitches before, one time during the course of the year, but he hadn't pitched in a while, and all these days off, you lose some endurance, during these many days off that we've had.
Go to Scott in the fourth row in the middle here.
Dusty, what did you think of Yuli's at bat? I mean, I know it just added another run, but
yeah.
He had a down year, and you stuck with him all year, and he hasn't even struck out the whole postseason.
Yeah, I mean that's contact's huge in the World Series, and I have faith in Yuli because Yuli's been on the world stage even before he got, to here. And you're on the world stage in Cuba. Anybody that's ever been to Cuba, man, you gotta play, and you gotta play to eat. And so I just knew that Yuli, was going to come through for us. He's worked hard. He kept his head straight, and that was a big fifth run because you always want to play for that fifth run to keep him out of slam reach. So, it was a big fifth run for us.
Jason in front of Scott.
Dusty, you have such a great appreciation for baseball history. You know the story of Don Larson. Was there anything about this that was uncomfortable for you, taking a guy out of a World Series no-hitter, or is this just baseball in 2022?
No, it's baseball in 2022. I mean, if I was the first guy to do that this year, as I recall, I think Dave Roberts had to do that in L.A., with Kershaw. And so you think about, especially a young player, you think about his health and his career as much as you think about that game. And like I said, we had a real fresh bullpen, extremely fresh bullpen, and one of the best bullpens around. So, I had full faith that, that they could do the job.
Was there a quick follow-up? Was there a time in your career as a manager where you never could have conceived that a manager would do this, take a pitcher out of a World Series no-hitter?
I don't know. I've never been in that position, so I don't know, to tell you the truth. Important thing is we won the game. That's most important. And we're 2-2, and we get to go back to Houston no matter what happens tomorrow. And tomorrow's as big a game as it was today.
We'll do two more. Tyler on your left.
You've managed for a lot of teams, and I wanted to ask you, what did the Astros do that kind of distinguishes their pitching program? Because they've brought in, they've had a lot of changeover in the last 5-6 years with pitching, and you guys just keep producing these good young arms. What is it about the Astros?
Well, like we do have good young arms, and we have a feeder system from the Dominican. A lot of the guys are from from another country, namely Dominican, Venezuela, and Mexico. So we've had a very good scouting system in Latin America. And then, we train them. Our people upstairs, they put them on a program. We have an idea, when they should be in the ball game. It doesn't always work, but it works more times than not. And so, we've developed a system, and a lot of the system was here before I got here, and I just try to continue and enhance what we already have.
We'll finish up with Brian on your left.
Dusty, if this goes 7 games, do you have any idea how much Javier could give you on 3 days rest?
Oh, I don't want to think. I thought about that today during the game. I was figuring it out, to tell you the truth. So, I don't know, 2 or 3 innings maybe.